Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today's episode I would like to dedicate to a young man named Max. Max's mother is a manager. She runs a wonderful nursery just south of Canby, Oregon. It's called Serendipity Nursery. It's really great place. And I happened to be talking to her, Max's mother, about cryptids, and uh, and so Max jumped in and said, "You mean the dude with the dog head?" And that just caught me kind of off guard and by surprise, and I thought it was really kind of cool in many ways. So I want to dedicate this to Max, and we are going to talk about Dogman today. And I want to talk about a little bit about background about Dogman, and then I want to talk a little bit about my partner Rainbow, who is an empath, and it's a very important part of our Dogman experience. Her abilities to be an empath and basically communicate. When I say communicate, I mean she receives information from cryptids like Dogman. So it's very important to kind of understand that whole empath avenue of communication. So we'll go over that. And then I want to tell our story of our own encounter with Dogman in New Mexico, which I think is pretty fascinating. So anyways, so let's get going. So Dogmen have been spotted all over the world, basically. I've heard of stories from Scandinavia, from Japan, from China, from Russia. Let's see, where else? Brazil. Just about every country in the world. The ones I mentioned, though, are the ones that I personally have either talked to people from those countries or have read about from credible sources. So the thing about Dogmen is they've been around probably for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. And they again do prefer wooded areas, forested areas around the world, but not necessarily. They've been spotted in some other places that were more semi-arid, in New Mexico, especially as from our experience. So, anyways, they go along with the legend of werewolves and wolfmen. And I think the thing about it is, man has actually written stories about dogmen, although they call them werewolves and wolfmen, mainly because they kind of built it up a little bit more so they can make it a little more scarier, etc. For the most part, I'm sure most of you probably have a general idea what a dogman looks like. Most of the dogmen I've heard of, and even the one that we did see personally, were probably anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall. They have kind of an elongated head with some pretty scary features from a standpoint. They do look like a wolf, but they look like an exaggerated wolf with a very long snout, with usually some very large teeth. They usually will stand, they move bipedal. They will stand on their hind legs, they're both their hind legs. And they have the front appendages have usually long claws. They're quite impressive. They kind of hunch over when they move bipedally, and they're very tall. So when you do see them, you're kind of startled, but you also have a tendency to kind of look at them and say, "Hey, what am I seeing? What am I realizing?" And a lot of times, you would probably at first say there's something else, just like we did. But we'll go over that story in a few minutes. Anyways, so again, they're been seen all over the world. Most of them, for the most part, are just curious creatures that keep a distance from humans. Of course, there has been stories, and I've talked to people where they were out in the middle of the woods, in a cabin or something, and all of a sudden they'll be in the cabin and they'll maybe look up and look at a window or something, or they notice it and there's a dogman, a big head of a dogman. And, you know, some of these heads are huge, by the way. You know, some dogmen have, I've heard, have heads 2 feet long, which is pretty impressive just, just by itself, forgetting about the body. But anyways, they would see these dogmen in the window. The dogman would be looking at them. You get startled. Typically, the dogmen leave immediately. They don't do anything else. Now, I've also talked to people where they would say that, you know, dogmen, for some reason, sometimes they become aggravated or agitated. Maybe, you know, the owner of the house did something or changed something around the house. In the garden, maybe there's something they liked in the garden that they couldn't find anymore, and they just get agitated, and they will, you know, kind of maybe run on the porch and scratch. You know, there's been a lot of places where you see these huge scratches on the side of doors or on the side of the house. Actually, I've seen them on siding where it looks like some creature, and it could have been a dogman. We're not 100% sure, but we think there was a dogman only because they had dogman sightings around the house previously, where these huge scratches are in the siding. And it's pretty impressive, actually. So anyways, for the most part, dogmen are pretty, they keep their distance, and they're pretty weary of humans, etc. So anyways, that's a little bit of the background. You know, let's just go back to wolves and etc. Now we have to always remember that wolves are very magical, spiritual creatures to the Native Americans. And you know, the Native Americans, I've talked to Native Americans in the past, and they do acknowledge some type of a creature, a wolf-like spirit creature that roams the woods. They don't always talk about it sort of like Dogman. They call it more of a spirit creature, and they probably have a different relationship with Dogman. And it's probably, they probably have a greater ability to communicate with Dogman. So I think they look at it a little differently than other people do. So anyways, so now I want to talk a little bit about empath. Rainbow, who is my partner, she's an empath. And some of our experiences that we've had with Sasquatch and Dogman have been enhanced, let's just put it this way, because of her abilities to be an empath. A lot of times when we're out in the woods, she will get communications from a Dogman, or she'll get a communication. And I'll talk about that special communication we had and our experience. But she also gets communications from Sasquatch. A lot of times these communications all of them basically are telepathic. And some of them are extremely clear in words that sound like English, regular English, although there is some slight differences in the tone and the way it's delivered, etc. Sometimes she'll get garbled words or something that sounds like an animal that also has words in the mix. Other times she'll get pictures. They will project pictures to her of things, of scenes, of them, what they look like, etc. Because not all the time we go out there do we see these things, or I see these things for sure, but Rainbow will see them in her mind. And I'm not able to, because I'm not really an empath. I mean, I think to agree everybody is an empath. A lot of times we don't pay attention, and we don't feel our senses. You know, we're not open to that. And because of that, we don't really feel it. Rainbow is very much open to that. She's been an empath all her life. And she's, you know, we've had some amazing experiences going to cemeteries, etc. And we could do a whole nother show on that, and probably we will someday. The other thing that empaths have the ability to do is they when they are emotionally charged, let me give you an example. Rainbow and I went to a state park, and we were walking around, and Rainbow had an emotional thing on her mind. She was upset about something, I remember. And suddenly we were walking along, suddenly she got this communication from a female Sasquatch named Warja. And it was amazing. Rainbow just stopped. She said, "I'm getting a communication." And Warja started talking to her and telling a little bit about her story, and actually told Rainbow, don't, relax, everything will be fine, type thing, kind of soothing, trying to soothe Rainbow because of whatever she was going through at the time. So apparently they can feel this emotion, human emotion. And if they can make that communication, Sasquatch in this particular case, they do. They will actually communicate with you. Especially, it seems like the females seem to do that more than the males do. So anyways, that was an interesting thing. The empaths are open channels, I believe. Their channel is always open. And if there's something, a cryptid in this case, out there trying to communicate with a human, they're wide open, empaths are. So it's very easy for them to communicate. And typically, I will tell you this, typically it's more of a one-way street. It's typically from the cryptid to the human. Now, Rainbow has been able to actually ask some questions, and sometimes she gets answers, sometimes she doesn't. But sometimes some of the answers are pretty incredible. So anyways, that is the role, I guess, of the empath. And obviously having Rainbow as my partner in research and all the experiences we've had is really a tremendous plus. Sometimes it keeps us out of trouble because she can kind of detect there's something dark, maybe around the corner out in the forest or something, and we will avoid those areas, just so you understand. So now I think what we're going to do now is let me tell you our story on the Dogman, our own personal experience, a close encounter basically of a Dogman. So this is when we lived in New Mexico. And if you're familiar with the Albuquerque area, right behind Albuquerque or to the east of Albuquerque is a mountain called Sandia Mountain. And it's a beautiful mountain. It has a ski resort on the back side of it. So what we typically would do, and we did it we lived there for quite a few years. And so what we would do is we'd go up into the various forested areas, and there happened to be a fairly large one on the top of Sandia Mountain. So we go on the back side of that mountain, and we go up the whole back side basically was a forest. And including a ski resort too. There's a ski resort there. So beyond the ski resort, there's a lot of trails. And so we went to one of our favorite trails there, and we were just gonna, do a little bit of a hike. I think it was on a holiday or something. It was in 2014, if I remember correctly. And so we went to this trailhead, and there was a parking area there. So we pulled up into a parking spot, and I didn't really like the way it was sitting because it was kind of on a hill. So I wanted to move it into a different area. And Rainbow had kind of jumped out before I did the final move. And so she was walking towards the trailhead. So I got the car situation, and I got out of the car, and I looked up, and I saw something there. It was huge. It was a huge, dark creature. And I realized what it was. It was a bear. It was truly a bear. And the bear got up, and I hollered at Rainbow because she didn't see the bear. And I said, "Rainbow, watch out, there's a huge bear over there." It was a huge black bear, and which are common on this mountain. And so anyway, so the black bear, which for some reason Rainbow thought it was a female, got up, kind of looked at her, and then took off, basically ran off. And everything was fine. We were a little startled. We hadn't seen a bear in a long time that close, but it was a pretty close encounter with the bear. So anyways, so I'm getting myself caught up with Rainbow. And then Rainbow, while I'm doing that, she's kind of standing there waiting for me, and she was looking up at the trail, and across the trail there was this figure that ran across, and I didn't really see it. I caught it at the end of the vision of the way the trail was of my vision. I could see it at the end, but she saw the whole length, and at first she thought it was a tall, extremely tall person hunched over with something on its back, which was, she thought a backpack or something. And I saw something similar, although I thought it was something more, didn't look like a hiker, because there was a couple of reasons why, and Rainbow realized it after, she thought about what she just saw, because the strides on this were probably 5 to 8 feet across. It wasn't just that it was hiking, it was like running or gliding. I almost felt it was gliding. And anyways, and the thing about it was it had a very unusual head. It was kind of I guess a pointed head, and of course the movement was quite quick, so you didn't get the real good vision of the full entity, whatever it was. We thought, of course, initially we thought it was some very tall human, but it wasn't, after you sat and thought about it. So anyways, what we did is, we are pretty fearless. So basically we kind of took off after it. We knew it was on a trail because we knew there was a trail up that way. So we got on that trail and we started walking kind of up, and we got up to the top of a ridge. Now, when we got up to the top of the ridge, we both had this ominous feeling, and the feeling was, and Rainbow got it a little bit more of a communication than I did. I just got this feeling that, oh, damn, I don't think we should be here. But Rainbow actually got a communication, and she stood there and took in the communication and basically found out that it was a Dogman. And the Dogman actually gave her name, gave his name. It was a male, and his name was Tulack, which was like crazy unusual. I thought it was a very unusual name, but she said it right away. She said, "There's a Dogman down there named Tulack, and it's just communicating with me, and it's basically telling us to stay back. It's not going to harm us, but it doesn't really want us to go much further." So we I said, okay, well, I respect that. I don't particularly want to have a super close encounter with a Dogman, because I knew enough about it already. So what I did is, what we typically do, I do vortex photography, which I think I've explained before, but I'll briefly mention it again. It's basically taking photos of darkened areas of the forest, random photos. I really don't overly focus on anything particular, although I try to shoot at the dark areas. So I just took some random shots down towards where we think the Dogman was. We didn't see it per se at the time. And this is a heavily forested area, and it has a lot of dark spots in it, dark areas of shadow. So I took a bunch of photos. I think Rainbow even took the camera and did some photos on her own, because she felt maybe she could get the more precise direction of where the Sasquatch, where the Dogman was. So she took some photos, and then we basically at that point turned around and went back basically towards the car. And anyways, we got back in the car and we started looking through the photos, and sure enough, there was Tulack. There he was up against the tree, looking at us, standing kind of sideways next to the tree. And you could tell, and on the tree, you could tell there was a couple knots. I think there was also, I don't know if you're familiar with, you go in the woods, and sometimes when they do logging or the State Forest Service marks trees, they a lot of times will mark the trees, and they put I would say a kind of a ribbon around them, basically tie it off and to keep it on the tree. And those trees are either going to be culled out, etc. Anyways, in this particular tree, we noticed that there was a ribbon around it, and it was up quite a bit. But we couldn't really tell per se how far it was up, but we did see in relationship the Sasquatch, to the, I keep on saying Sasquatch, to the Dogman, how high the tree, he was standing next to that. And you could tell. And I think he was, I think it was like 2 feet above this ribbon thing, this marker. So anyways, keeping that in mind, we went back, I think it was a week or so later, just to see if we could find this location back off the trail. So we got there and we did find it. We found the tree, we found everything that matched, and we looked at where the ribbon was, and it was still there. And we looked at where we could see on the photo where Tulack was standing, and we could easily see now that it looked like he was about 8 foot tall, which was pretty incredible. But that's about in the range we expected it to be, was about 8 foot. So anyways, that was our encounter with Tulack, the Dogman. I don't remember. Yeah, and I think after, Rainbow did have another communication with Tulack. It wasn't when we were up there at all. I think this was actually at our home, which cryptids also seem to communicate Rainbow when we're even at home. She will get these communications with them. Anyways, I believe that communication was we were supposed to come back to a specific point that it gave us, and it was going to show us a portal that he would pass through or go through, and other creatures or cryptids also use this portal. And I'm not really sure, even to this day, we don't remember why we didn't make that trip at the time. I don't know if we were out of town or we were working or what the deal was. But one of the interesting things about cryptids is that they seem to have, they don't have the same realization that we actually work, we leave town, we go places, we're not always able to respond to what their wishes are, which of course, unfortunately, we wish we would have, but we didn't. But Rainbow's also had times when in the middle of the night, they would try to wake her up and give her, download a bunch of information, etc. It could be like 3 a.m. And it's pretty difficult to get woken up in the middle of the night and take dictation down, basically, of whatever a creature is trying to tell you. But it happens a lot to her. Sometimes she misses that communication, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. They just don't seem to quite know how humans, how their lives go. And that's unfortunate because, obviously every bit of communication with and different entities, including aliens or cryptids, is really, really important, especially to us, since that's what we do. That's what our goal is. That's what our mission is, to make communication. So anyways, so moving along, I kind of want to finish this off by saying I like to read a few things that Rainbow, some quotes from some of the things she has written about Dogman in the past, and so you have a kind of a little bit of feeling what she has inside her, her empath abilities. So I'm going to read a few of those right now. I'll get my glasses on here. So this is Rainbow. This is from a couple of articles that she's written in the past. So this is Rainbow. I think that through 240 years of the United States of America, the cryptids, Dogman in this particular case, have been around, and they've had numerous altercations with humans, learning we are dangerous creatures. So she feels that, the Dogmen in her communications, they're saying that they're very leery of humans. They basically think we're fairly dangerous as a species. And again, quoting Rainbow, one thing that I want to point out is that a clear mind is better than a pointed gun when walking into the woods. There are those who will say that is ludicrous, but I do believe that harmful intent attracts what it focuses on. Cryptids will always be elusive. if they know people carry guns. We'll never see them. It comes down to what kind of interaction a person wants with cryptids. I think that is absolutely true. We never go into, not that we own any guns, but we never go into the woods with anything other than a camera. We do carry mainly for protection against humans, and we also do carry bear spray because we do know that bears occasionally will get a little too close, and we feel it's important to have that. And we don't think that bear spray is going to be something that cryptids would be concerned about. We'd never use it on a cryptid because we don't honestly believe that they would attack us, etc. So one more thing I like to read from Rainbow. The cryptids I have encountered seem to need a human voice to tell their stories. An empath hears the ebb and flow of voices, yet we don't judge what we hear. I only ask that those who read or hear what an empath alliterates from these creatures does so with an open mind before jumping the gun to conclusions and deciding what is true and what is false. Remember, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, only because we don't meet it as often. So I think the important thing is, talk about when you go into the woods, is be careful, go with an open mind, be cautious. I mean, if you want to, as a human, if you want to meet a Sasquatch or you want to meet a Dogman, if you persist, you go out there with an open mind and a clear mind, you will probably eventually have that encounter. And it's really up to you what type of encounter you want to have. If you listen to what they say or what they tell you, or if they tell you to get out of that area, get out of that area. If you go in there and say, hey, do you mind if I come out here and sit and maybe meditate, chances are they will come to you eventually. So that's what I think is very important. Now, if you would like to see the Dogman we took a picture of course, you can go to Truth Seeker Forum, and I will have on there, I will do a little page on there, and I'll put on there Dogman photo, and then you can either search for that, or it will be one of the first ones that when you go to Truth Seeker Forum, you should see as you scroll down. So anyways, that's it for today. If you like us, please like us, and please give us any comments. And if you want to share any of your own stories, please send them to dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. And of course, we'd love to have you subscribe. That's really important for us. So thank you very much.